Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. A dire new warning from U.S. Central Command. ISIS-K, the same terror group that killed 13 of our service members during the Afghanistan withdrawal, could strike American interests in less than 6 months. So if you thought the fallout from Biden's botched Afghanistan withdrawal was over, think again. The terrorists aren't the only American enemies growing bolder. Chinese President Xi will reportedly meet Vladimir Putin in Moscow next week to launch a new era of collaboration between their two nations. This despite the fact that Putin is now a wanted man. The International Criminal Court has issued a warrant for his arrest over possible war crimes in Ukraine. But thanks to Biden's weakness, America's enemies have nothing to fear. Here with reaction are Florida Congressman Mike Waltz and Fox News contributor and retired Marine Joey Jones. Both of you have served in the military. We appreciate your service. We thank you for joining us tonight. Congressman, I want to go to you first. A lot of news, a lot of bold moves on the international stage. Set the stage for us. Explain to us what's happening and why we should be worried.
Well, China is continuing to assert its role in its effort to replace the United States, not to become a global superpower, but to become the global superpower. So Xi is going to meet with Putin in the coming weeks. If the Chinese unleash their military arsenal to support Russia, Biden saying as long as it takes, it's going to take forever. We need to set a red line to that support, and it needs to be a Trump red line, not an Obama red line like he said in Syria that everybody walked all over. And then on top of that, China just brokered a deal with Iran and Saudi Arabia, where the United States has completely vacated the scene. So China's great weakness is its energy dependency. It needs oil from the Middle East, and it's buying gas by the gallons, by the millions of gallons from Russia. Meanwhile, our great weakness, our great strength in the United States is energy dependence, but Biden's at war with that. He's at war with our independence. So look, this is people seeing a lack of leadership. This is them seeing weakness in this White House, and our enemies, namely our number one enemy, China, is on the march, replacing the United States on the global stage.
So, Joey, next week you have a meeting with these two leaders. You also have reports of a Russian energy company helping with Chinese their nuclear program. You have this new relationship in the Middle East with Saudi Arabia and Iran. And you have a president who seems feeble and can't even figure out what's going on our southern border, let alone on the international and world stage.
Yeah, it seems like President Biden's almost the best libertarian candidate at this point because his isolationist policies are really starting to work. We're kind of on an island by ourselves anymore. But, I think Republicans in Congress are using the term all-of-government approach when it comes to responding to this. Now, if you take an all-of-government view when it comes to national defense, this isn't just bombs and bullets. It's not the fact that we pulled out of Afghanistan, it's how we did it. It's not the fact that we're hurting our own energy independence, but it's the idea that China controls 90% of our of critical minerals in the world. We're allowing Russia to export natural gas while we're making ourselves more dependent upon China in order to use renewable energy. So you go down the line. We can't control our southern border, so now we have Mexican cartels that are equivalent to, when it comes to killing Americans, ISIS, Taliban, and Al-Qaeda put together. And so when you go down the line, when we talk about the word weakness, the office of the presidency isn't an easy job. But the one thing you can't do is be indecisive or to make decisions that you're not consistent with. And it looks like the dog wagging the tail. It looks like the president is constantly reacting rather than being proactive and defending us in some way or making a strategic defense so that we can have a position of strength.
Yeah, you got a president there that's weakening the standards in terms of, recruitment, and then trying to figure out and spending more time on how to go green and make sure everybody, has the choice to go to whatever bathroom as opposed to fighting and winning wars. Congressman, I want to go to what General Kurilla, who is the commander of Central Command, one of the most important posts in our United States military. And what he's telling us is, and what he testified to, is that ISIS is reformed and within 6 months has the ability to reach out beyond the borders of Afghanistan to strike the United States. What's your take on this?
Well, we've seen this horror movie before, Jason. When Obama yanked us out of Iraq with no backup plan, we had the explosion of ISIS on the scene 3 years later in 2014. But at least then, when we had to go back to deal with that, we had the Kurds, our allies on the ground. We had access from the ocean. We had bases in places like Jordan and Turkey and Israel. We had a government to work with in Baghdad. In Afghanistan, we have none of that. We have no bases. We have no government to work with. Our allies are being hunted down as we speak by the Taliban. They'll never work with us again. So God help us if we have another San Bernardino Pulse nightclub or, God forbid, a 9/11. We have nothing. This is what pisses me off the most for our future special operators to go back with work with. And that's the go forward. Looking back, we just had our first hearing in Afghanistan about the Afghanistan withdrawal in the Congress. And listen, the sniper that was at Abbey Gate had the suicide bomber in his sights and was denied permission to take him out 3 times. So we've got to deal with what's coming, but we also need accountability for those Gold Star families.
Joey, I've only got 20 seconds. What can you add to that?
Yeah, you know, if you only work with friends that are of pure heart and righteous, then you don't have any friends at all. President Trump was chastised for Saudi Arabia and China and Russia and North Korea trying to get some type of strategic diplomatic communication with some of those countries. And President Biden ostracizes every attempt at that, but he makes a deal with the Taliban that gets some of our Marines and soldiers and sailors killed. So that's where we are.
Gentlemen, again, thank you for your service to our nation. And I got to tell you, it just feels like we're taking our eye off the ball, that we're supposed to be here to protect our homeland and to prevent an actual terrorist attack. And it just feels like we're vulnerable right now because we've taken our eye off the ball. That's my take. Hopefully, it never, ever happens.